This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
He lives close enough to Nashville for his listeners to ask him where they should eat when they go to Nashville for the SEC basketball tournament. Bill King joining us here from Nashville Sports Radio, airing every Monday through Friday, 6 to 9. But you don't go into Nashville too often, so Bill, you got a lot of people coming in for this SEC basketball tournament. Should be a lot of fun. We got the game starting later today. You got any thought on who you think's going to win this thing? I mean, Alabama's the easy answer right here. They've looked really, really good. But who else you looking at as far as the SEC tournament?
Well, I mean, historically, if you just pick Kentucky, you'd win more than you lose. I don't think they're the best team. Obviously, Alabama's been the best team, but that would be one I would mention, Alabama. And you also have to figure out, is it really, if you're assured a high seed, is it in your best interest to, play 3-4 games or whatever it's going to take, depending on what you're seeded and what day you start. And if you're a high seed, maybe it's not in your best interest. I know Calipari can't stand the tournament. He's made that clear. Now, he's won it quite a few times, but he doesn't really see the necessity there. But I don't think there's an overwhelming, Tennessee won it last year and then flamed out really fast in the tournament. So, anyways, by the way, since the Omni is my title sponsor, which is the downtown hotel, and there's lots of them down there, but that's ours. Go to, if you want a really expensive steak, go to Bob's Steakhouse right there in the Omni. And if you just want bar food, then go to Bar Lines in there. There's my plug.
That Omni Hotel, when we played the Music City Bowl, Phil, it's like a camp. I mean, it's huge. I mean, to walk to one side to the one side, it's absolutely gorgeous.
I've not been to that hotel there. I've been to Opryland a few times. No, but I don't know if you're going to stay out in Opryland if you're at the SEC basketball tournament. I'd much rather be downtown rather than out by Opryland. But you want to talk about a campus, man. I mean, that thing is huge, and that mall right next to it is just gigantic.
Well, and forever it was a huge theme park, and it's a shame they crashed that thing and turned it into a mall and everything else. But forever that was an incredibly popular. Opryland was considered one of the best theme parks on the planet Earth, and it lasted about 20 years, and then the Gaylord family said, we're getting rid of that, and we're going to make a big mall out of it. But yeah, man, it's going to be fun time. Downtown Nashville is just fantastic. Everything you want, every kind of restaurant you want. If you're single, Nashville is, and I'm not just saying this to be silly, the bachelorette capital of the world. I'm not kidding. This is where more people come here than I think any other place for their bachelorette party. So if you're single, that's just a little tip for you there.
I will never forget the video of the poor young lady who, this was when Nashville hosted the NFL draft. She was crying about it that they were supposed to have their bachelorette party, but there wasn't anywhere to stay because of the NFL draft. It was kind of funny, but it was sad at the same time. But yeah, that's when I realized that Nashville was the capital of bachelorette parties. Spring football is starting up, and Arkansas, they got what seems like a pretty good transfer cornerback from Georgia yesterday, Jaheim Singletary. He was the number 3 cornerback in the 2022 class, according to ESPN. You know anything about him?
Very good athlete, very good player. Just could not get on the field there at Georgia with the athletes that they have, and probably good enough to be in with the group of athletes they have. It just couldn't find his spot, and I think that's a very, very good pickup for Arkansas. He's a guy, just needs some love. He needs game reps. As Matt will tell you, practicing is a fantastic thing, but there is nothing at any position, in any sport for that matter, that replaces game reps, and that's all he needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had some postseason awards come out, and it was Buzz Williams getting the Coach of the Year, and then he split it with Jerry Stackhouse, I believe. And now, I'm a Jerry Stackhouse fan. Do you think that he's at Vanderbilt for a couple more years, or is he a guy that's going to be out there when they're talking about other jobs coming open, that he might be a name on the short list?
Well, just living here through osmosis, he's not been real popular until the last month and a half when they've really played good basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Went up to Kentucky and won, as we know. So he's not been popular at all. I mean, Vanderbilt fans would prefer he get fired. Now, we all know that's not going to happen, and they did. They played outstanding here down the stretch last 6 weeks, month. But until then, he's been very unpopular. And so, no, I don't know. I don't know that he's got to string another year of this together, I think, to be sought after on a high level. Vanderbilt's a private school, but they pay well. Now, they may be cheap in some other areas, but coaches there get paid well. And he's well taken care of. I don't think, 2 years, if he wins like he's winning now, I don't know that he'll be here. But I got to tell you, to date, he hasn't been popular.
I got you. What about the Chris Beard situation with Ole Miss? Is there anything truth to that, or who do you look for Ole Miss to go after to get to repay? Is it Kermit Davis?
Yeah, Kermit, who was actually up here for 20 years at MTSU in Murfreesboro, did a really good job, and certainly didn't do too well after that first year at Ole Miss. I'm hearing that it's legit. Now, I don't know what has to happen here to fully consummate the deal and get it done and have it public, but I think this flirtation and the seriousness of it is legit, is what I'm hearing.
I could see Chris Beard just wanting to get back into it and put it behind him, the first school, Power 5 school, and you go there, have success, because I don't think he won at Texas Tech. I think he believes in himself that he'll win wherever he goes.
True, and Oxford it's not a basketball town. Now, Mississippi's got good players that you can get, but it's a football school. It's a baseball school, too. And I think you can do it and not have the media all up in your business, right? I think you can do it and there's going to be a backlash regardless, right? But I think he can do it there with more comfort than a lot of other places. So I think for sure.
And I like what Bill King said a couple weeks ago. He said, Ole Miss is one of the only schools that red shirts Miss America. So we know they're not a basketball school, yeah.
No.
That now, on the flip side of that might not be so good for him.
That's right. I mean, that's why they got such a small building. Well, small town, small building for basketball. I guess these things all equal out. Speaking of small, Bill, Pac-12 is going to get smaller, probably to the point where they don't even have a league anymore. It looks like Colorado wants out. Their Board of Regents apparently has a meeting sometime soon. They already left the Big 12. Now they're probably going to head back to the Big 12 at some point. So the last two summers, you had Texas and OU make the announcement to the SEC. Then it was USC and UCLA. Are we going to see the death of the Pac-12 in the next 3 months?
They're getting lowballed. They don't really have a network flirting with them but ESPN, and they're getting lowballed there, not anywhere close to competitive. Their current deal pays $250 a year, $250 million a year, and the school split that up. That's with USC and UCLA. And obviously we know in a year they're gone. Their deal runs through 24, and they really don't have a network, Fox or any of the others flirting with them. ESPN's dabbling there, Big Tech's dabbling, but the lowballing. They know they can get them for the cheap. The other problem is, let's just say they get a deal. Oregon and Washington's not going to sign another grant of rights unless it's something worth their time. So you're not going to be able to trap them. And let's face it, there's a little bit of payback here because the summer of 2010, legitimately, the West Coast was going to take the Pac-10 at the time, Texas, Oklahoma, and then they were going to bring with them A&M and Oklahoma State. That was real. And there were days where I was pretty sure it's over. And the way they saved that deal is promising Texas their own network, the Longhorn Network. That's basically what saved it. And everybody was going to follow what Texas did there, even though they hate Texas, they were going to follow them. So now there's a little payback because they were going to raid the Big 12, and now the Big 12 is doing the same to them, and I think something could happen. What's going to be interesting is to see what the Big 10 does, because they really don't need Oregon and Washington, but they may take them.
I read where they may take them like at a discount to Oregon and Washington and not get the same piece of the pie that everybody else in the league gets. And then that also makes me think about what might happen on the East Coast. Because if Rutgers and Maryland are part of a contract that's bringing in $1 billion to the Big Ten, and yet North Carolina and NC State and Florida State and Miami are part of a conference that has $240 million contract, and that contract lasts another 13 years. Like, I can't imagine that the ACC stays the way that they are. I can't imagine it'll happen at all, because I don't that Florida State is not going to accept schools like Rutgers and Maryland making that much more, and therefore being able to pay their coaches more and being able to upgrade facilities easier. It's just, it's like year by year, these things with conference happening. It's going to be the Pac-12 this summer. Maybe next summer it's the ACC.
Northwestern will be getting 70, 80, 90 million a year. Evanston, Illinois, 70, 80, 90. And Florida State, a pretty big brand, about 35 currently. And their deal, as you mentioned, goes through 2036, and they're trapped. There's to get out of that grant of rights and also pay the exit fee, which are two different numbers. That's $400 or $500 million for one team. And there's really no legal maneuvering there. The only thing they could hope is if the league imploded, or somebody just had to, take a chance, and maybe ESPN came back in and said, we're not paying you that same money because it's not the same league. If you take Clemson and Florida State, we might have talked about this, guys. You add those two brands up, that's probably 50 or more % of that whole league.
Yeah.
Whole league.
Isn't there, and I thought I'd read about the ACC, that there is this, there is a buyout that they would have to pay up because of the grant of rights, but that there also might, I think, a bylaw about, like, if a certain number of schools, say that they want out, if it's like, it's a 14-team league or a 15-team league, like maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of them, then you can dissolve some of this. Maybe I read it wrong, but that's kind of what I was picturing. Like maybe 4 or 5 or 6 of these schools, like you say, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, NC State, Miami, they were to say, this is enough for us, then the league could collapse.
Problem with that is they got nowhere to go. Where are you going?
Yes, we all assume it's the SEC, but you can't make that assumption, can you?
No, SEC doesn't need those teams. That doesn't do them any good. Longer division doesn't do you any good. But look, there's an exit fee which is $120 million in the ACC, and then there's the grant of rights money. So for 13 more years, at let's say $40 million a year, that's $520 million. They own that. They own your media rights. You signed it. And so you're talking $500 million or more you would owe. They're stuck. Now, I'm not saying something couldn't happen, but they need that league to implode. ESPN say we're not going to pay this same money because you're not worth it, and watch it just fall to pieces. That's their only exit opportunity right now.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.